have a one-to-one chat with our seniors who have cracked placements at top companies. I am Auntie Vareya, PR of CodeCell. I am gonna be the interviewer today. We have four panelists today who are former KJSC CodeCell members and were regular competitive coders. Firstly, we have Chirag from KJSC in computer engineering in 2020, uh, was a part of CodeCell from 2017 to 2019. He was also a project administrator in Girl Script Summer of Code 2019, GSOC 19. He was also a part of Kharagpur Winter of Code. He is currently working as a software engineer at BrowserStack. He was also a project administrator in Chaitya Shah. Script Summer of Chaitya Shah graduated from GSOC KJSC in Information Technology in 2019, was a part of CodeCell from 2016 to 2018. His internships cover a wide range of domains, front end, software development, and so on. He has also been a research intern at LVPEI Center of Innovation. He was also a core committee member of Parva. He is currently working as a senior software engineer at BrowserStack. Next, we have Smit Thakkar. Smit Thakkar graduated part of CodeCell from 2015 to 2016. He was a summer intern at Capgemini in the year 2016 as an iOS developer. He worked at Vicent Tech for a couple of years and is currently working as a senior software engineer at Forbes. Uh, Last, we have Dipen Ved. Dipen Ved graduated from KJSC in computer engineering in 2018, was a part of CodeCell from 2015 to 2017. He has interned at various companies as a web developer and has also been a research intern at LVPEI Center of Innovation. He has given a guest lecture on reinforcement learning and its applications to students of MTech CE at KJ Sumaya College of Engineering. He is currently working as a consultant at Microsoft Azure Cloud and AI. Without wasting any further time, we'll get started. We have a list of curated questions, and our panelists would answer them, share their opinions and experiences with us. So, firstly, we'll start with Chaitya Shah. How exactly did you prepare for placements? Did you focus on cracking the coding test, or were you more focused on the interview? Is CP helpful for placements, test, or interview? If yes, how?
Yeah, so I'll answer this question. So there's this book called Cracking the Coding Interview. I would highly recommend everyone to go through it at least once if they are preparing for their technical or in general software engineering interviews. So when I started preparing for this, basically I started preparing for placements much earlier in towards the end of the third year because I was also looking for internships. And during that time I went through this book, and this book has different areas, and it also covers if let's say you are trying to start preparing from early on, like a year, or if you have one more than a year, then it also tells you specific steps to take so that you have a good profile. So first, I think the first part of getting our foot in an interview is to build a good profile, maintain a good image over online mediums, and once that is there, that makes sure that you actually get an interview. The second part usually is the technical abilities that you have. There are twofold things that you can do in that. One is build your projects, which will help you from in terms of tackling the dev specific questions. And as per for CP, I would say CP is not like the only thing that you should do, and it has been taken into too much of the limelight recently, and everyone like tries to focus to be 3-star, 4-star on CodeChef. That is important, and yes, if you enjoy it, do it. Definitely, it helps you have many other skills. but that is not the only area. Usually in an interview, if there are 4 or 5 rounds, there are either 2 at max 3 rounds which focus on this, and also those are sometimes specific. Even if you are like very good at competitive programming, there's a chance you miss those questions. But the way you approach that, the concepts that are there, if your concepts are clear and you understand the basics, like the data structures, the algorithms, the basic part, that's more important rather than having that aptitude of this, the competitive programming aptitude, which is like solving very tough questions within a limited span of time. As per for I think some of you might have doubts about that. What about the coding online round? So most companies, apart from like a very few, if I were to take some names, like DirectEye is there, Amazon is there. Sometimes when these companies come up with a difficult question in their test, uh, usually they are difficult, but you can crack it. It is not like that you have to be a continuous competitive programmer to crack those questions. But yeah, I won't suggest you doing competitive programming just for cracking coding interviews. There are many other things that you can focus on. So I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, that was quite helpful. Uh, Smith Thakkar, would you like to say something on this question? Like, would you like to answer this?
Yes, like I completely agree with Chaitya, but like I think from like because you are quite early, like who all the viewers, you are quite early in your stage, so you should always try to have a very strong language. Okay, so I have seen people like they know tens of languages, but they don't know how it works, what the underlying model, the memory model is like. Why how does it solve specific problems? You say Python, Java, they have very different ways of solving the problems. So like I would rather request you to only master one programming language than having a handful of programming languages. Take it anyone, and just go into the depths of that programming language, and you'll actually appreciate the power. And most of the times it happens that if you go very deep inside one language, you basically end up replicating the same in other languages. Okay, so it's a very like if the viewers right now have plenty of time to do that, so it's very well worth it to start with only one programming language and do it very well.
That makes sense. Yeah, totally. We'll move to the next question. What is the general selection process for on campus and off campus placements? Is it a coding aptitude test followed by a series of interviews? Uh, Chirag, Shetty, could you just answer this question?
Sure. So, as much as I know, I've been through various placement procedures. There are like two major categories in which the tests or the coding, the entire flow of interview happens. So, the first flow is wherein we see bigger companies, which are established corporates and huge companies. They have a fixed pattern on their end because the number of people or the audience that they cater to is very high. So they have a huge bunch of people from which they have to take people from. So usually they have this pattern of having an aptitude test or a coding test at the beginning, which filters out kind of people, and then eventually they reach to a phase wherein they have enough number of people whom they can afford to have face-to-face interview with, right? And post that, then they'll have those face-to-face interviews, which can be of any sort. So it can be technical, it can be HR in the later phases, it can be about how you react under certain situations, and all those different kind of things. And the initial tests which are happening, they might be coding questions given to you. Maybe a R is given to you. You have to solve two questions or something of that sort, or an aptitude test which will have things like solving quantitative things or all those kinds of things, which helps them filter out people who they think they can who they can consider for the next round, right? So that is like one bunch of companies, and usually I see this procedure heavily being followed in established corporates and the companies which are in huge in size. And then there are smaller companies and startups who are now becoming bigger companies, or those. These people don't usually have this process. They have an entirely different process, wherein what they'll do is they don't have the time or resource to interview people extensively. They'll, rather than giving you a coding test or an aptitude test, they'll give you a take home assignment, right? They'll give you a task and let's say tell it to you, give you access to internet and give you the opportunity to solve it in let's say a day or let's say 5 hours or 6 hours, and give you a proper a proper assignment wherein it's not just about solving a question, a CP problem or a algo or a DS problem, but more or less of do implementing something like let's say a API endpoint or let's say a small HTML page which serves a particular purpose or something of that sort, followed by the face-to-face interviews that will happen right then. So the entirely, if we say that the two different flows, what differs them is the major companies will have smaller aptitude tests in the beginning, whereas the startups will have these takeaway home tests, followed by similar procedures in both of the companies. You'll have face-to-face interviews and then the rounds to be followed.
That
I
was quite
think.
insightful. Yeah, understood. The pain, would you like to share something about this?
Yes, totally. I think Chirag covered it very nicely. But just to add to that, I have also seen at my times when I was giving interviews that even though there were coding tests, but they were not totally focused on CP. There was like they were distributed in two sections, and then one of the section would have questions which are specific to that company. So some if the company is working more on the networking side of things, then it will have some MCQ test or uh, some essay or something which is related to the networking side of things. If some company requires a good communication skills, then they will add on some English questions or maybe some operating system questions. So it is not like so how they grade the test is like it's overall graded. So even if you do you're not able to do one of the CP questions, you can cover it up in some other MCQ part. So yeah, that is what I observed. The other thing I observed, like recently, I started taking interviews for my company. So what I observed was even for the coding test which we take, there were chances where people did not submit the solution for the question because they knew that it did not work. But in the backend, they actually had this system to grade the already submitted solution by manually going through the code. So the interviewer actually goes through the code even if the submission is wrong, just to check how close you were to get the correct amount of people in their interviewing batch. The other thing was also they have this hidden cases. So suppose you submitted one of the questions in your first round and it was all passing, like some other guy also did the same thing, but one of them got selected. One of the reasons could be that they had hidden test cases which ran after you submitted the questions, and those hidden test cases also can make a difference. Yeah, so that is totally things you need to keep uh, a track on.
That was really helpful, actually. I guess this question is very well answered. We'll move on to the next question. What are some important questions or topics that are asked in interviews to freshers? It may be tech or non-tech. Yeah, Smit Thakkar, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. So, in my experience, like the first thing that everyone tests is your problem solving skills. Like if you're given if you're given the situation, like how would you design with your current capacity, how would you design a solution around it? So definitely your problem solving skills. The more projects you do, the more competitive programming you do, that skill will be sharpened. After that, it was a programming language. How well you know the programming language that you day to day work with. Let's say Python, Java, anything. So make sure that that is very strong. And the third one is that is quite underrated, but it is the most. That is the thing where you will be spending most of your time. Are operating systems. Okay, so you need to understand how Linux works, how Windows works, whatever you're comfortable with, but you should know how things are scheduled. How does the operating system work? Because ultimately that is a building block for the later technologies, the cloud ones, the Docker, everything. So make sure that you have the basics right: programming language and operating systems. I think these are the things that you must know.
Okay, that was nice. Chirag, Shetty, would you like to elaborate on this more?
Yes, I think Smith covered a lot of technical things and he was bang on. I'll touch to one aspect which is the non-technical part of it, which I think many of us being engineers we get so much engrossed in the technical side of things that we forget doing this. Any interview post the aptitude test or the online rounds that you have, once you sit in front of the person who's taking your interview, the first question is always going to be, tell me something about yourself. And this is something that people don't prepare for, but that is a very generic question which every interviewer will ask you, and you should have a good story, which, because this is the first question and dictates the entire flow of your interview going ahead, right? So that is one thing which I feel I did focus on, and I did do tell a lot of people who ask me how do I prepare for an interview. I tell, have a good 5 minute story about wherein you tell you about wherein you explain the entire journey that you have been through, all the projects that you have been, so that your interviewer also knows the things that you have been through. And that journey should also be in parallel with the resume that you have, wherein you can highlight, because the interviewer also sometimes receives your resume when you go and sit in front of him, right? You can't expect him to know everything about you beforehand, right? So it's your duty to make sure that all the good things you have done is highlighted in front of him, right? So have a nice story of 5 minutes wherein you showcase all the important points that you have on your resume, so that the flow is set for the entire interview, and the next questions that are going to come will come from one of the interesting or the open-ended things that you have left within your resume itself, right? What it does is it will give your interviewer some points to ask on your resume itself. Now, because this is your resume and all the things are the ones which you have written yourself, it gives you the a feeling of control that this is something I have implemented, I know it inside and out, right? So it's easier for you to answer rather than you not giving him any points and then he taking the interview to some direction which you are not aware of, right?
Sorry, I would like to add on to this. So one thing that Chirag said, yes, all those points are valid. One thing that you can do with this question is that basically set your attitude, because all the resumes and everything that you submitted, it sets the objective tone that what value do you add to the company technically. But generally teams, hiring teams are looking for your attitude as well, and they try to judge it, and sometimes candidates are rejected just because they aren't sure that this person is worth relying on or not. So basically if you set your attitude, that why, basically what drives you towards working, like doing whatever you are interested in, is it curiosity, is it because you want to reach somewhere in your life, all this tone can be set via that question, because you won't get this opportunity again and again, and they are like they want to understand what attitude that you have. And yeah, so that was one point I wanted.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody who has already said, like, given their interviews have faced this question at least once. So yeah, this was quite helpful. This answer, I am sure many people would now be able to crack those questions. Uh, we'll move on to the next question. Uh, During engineering, many people learn various cutting edge technologies like in web dev and app development. However, does this help you in your job? Where you had set your for place when you had set for placements, what kind of job were offered in our college? Were they strongly technical, or what kind were they? So the pain, would you like to answer this?
Yes, definitely. Actually, this question is quite a wide question to talk about, but yeah, there are like different companies have different opinions about how they want to recruit people. So one of the cases being that if the company is doesn't have so much technical work, then they don't expect or they don't ask rather so hard questions. So first thing I want to say, don't study segmentary and tiger hash and all that for your competitive coding round. You should be smart enough. You should figure out that only half an hour is left in the interview or only 15 minutes is left. And if the interviewer is asking you some question, it has to be a brute force solution or it has to be some simple solution. So other than that, at the time when I was interviewing, there were a lot of companies coming in which were new, So, and there were ones which we were already having in Somaya. So the ones which are already were there, we took the help of the senior. We have the placement cell and everyone to help us. So we already knew what was actually expected out of it. But for the companies which were new, we were very unsure about the profile it had. And what I would suggest everyone to do is actually do quite a brief search about them, because what would happen is people would blankly sit on an interview without knowing what their profile is and what they actually wanted. Do they actually want it? I have few of my friends who ended up doing a project manager job or a front end job where they didn't have any interest and eventually left the company. They are doing good now, but this is something they could have referred before joining, before interviewing in the round itself. And one other advice I would say is to not flex in the interview. Like even if there are like 100 points in your resume, you don't have to tell all of them. You just have to tell what are relevant for that interview and what that guy would care about. Yeah. So yeah, I think uh, I might have missed some part of that question, but yeah, that's it from my.
No problem. So, well, ask Chaitya Shah, what would he like to
Could you
say?
repeat the question? Yes, it was a wide question.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. Uh, During engineering, many people learn various cutting edge technologies like web development and app development. However, does this help you in your job? When you had set for placements, what kind of job were offered in our college? Were they strongly technical, or what kind were they?
Okay, so I think there are two scenarios that could happen in this. That the companies that you are interviewing for, and you get your foot in just on the basis of the skills that you acquired, and basically they are uh, offering you this interview because you are good in XY technology, or they specifically want an Angular developer. And if that is the case, and I think you should fairly know this beforehand. If you don't know, make this clear that yes, you are being interviewed with the company because you are an Angular developer or you are a good Android developer. Once you know that, make sure that you don't bullshit in your resume. That if let's say that if you have just worked with Angular's this XYZ framework for 5 minutes, just following a tutorial, don't bullshit that, because it could be that that is not what they are looking for. But since you have mentioned it on your resume, they think that this is something you have worked with, and you aren't, and as you claim to be an expert in Angular, you might know this, and then when you end up not knowing it, it just doesn't look good for you. So you might make it or not, but we want to minimize our chances to not get it. uh, uh, the second scenario is where the companies are looking for freshers. They don't really care if you know XYZ well or not. They know that they can train you, or the knowledge that the kind of candidates they hire already have that aptitude that they'll pick things up quickly. So when this is the case, they might ask you very generic computer science questions, where which are like OS specific, which might be database specific, and these are just to know that whatever you have learned, have you picked the basic concepts or the essence of the subject, and not the in-depth knowledge. In that case, I think if you have prepared for the interview well, like a generic tech interview, you have already gone through Geek for Geeks and all the top questions, you should more or less able to answer it. And so yeah, I think these are the two scenarios which could happen. So yeah, you know when to know the depth and when to know the breadth.
Thank you, Dipen and Chaitya, for answering such a long question.
I'll
Well,
add
now,
one point. I'll add one point to this.
sure.
Yeah. So the first part of the question was, some people learn cutting edge technology in order and do they actually use it in their work, right? So I think learning a cutting edge technology just so that you can work on it later in some particular company is a wrong expectation from your end. You are working for a company. You are expected to work in whatever they do, right? So let's say there is some technology which you are learning and you are so fascinated with it, then you'll have to pursue such a company which uses that particular technology, and then maybe you can go for that. And that is not something that happens every day in our college or any other college for that factor, for the matter, any company that will come will assess you on the basis of fundamentals, and then give you a job on the basis of things that they have available with them. They won't assess you on the basis of some cutting edge technology and then give you a role because you are so good in that cutting edge technology. So learn a cutting edge technology. That is very good thing. That is something, even if you end up doing something else in your job, the learnings that you will have over there will apply to that, because at the end of the day, anything that you do in programming relates to something else somewhere else. Somehow the learning from one place connects to the something else on the other side. But then it's wrong expectation, I guess, from our end itself to learn something and then expect the company will give me job in that particular field.
Yeah, correct. We'll move on to the next question. Uh, what is a better option, on campus or off campus placements? And what type of placements did you opt for? We'll start with Smit Thakkar. Yes. Would you
Yeah.
like to answer?
So yeah, I see. I guess it depends. Okay, so the thing is, when you say on campus, so there are two things. Historically, did good companies visit your college? And if you are unlucky, why didn't the companies visit your college? Okay, so it goes that way. So you can't help it. But again, like as we said, just understand what they expect and what role you might have. Talk to the alumni and check out stuff. So yes, for on campus, like I don't know. Yeah, it's like Soma has good amount of companies like Morgan Stanley, good domain direct and all. So you can try for it. For off campus, I think Chaitya can answer that very well for BrowserStack. But generally, unless you are experienced, it is very difficult to get an off campus job. Like what I have seen, because generally a lot of people are competing for the same job with like good hands-on experience and all. So companies generally prefer like in off campuses someone who is more experienced rather than a fresher from college. Okay, because they don't have to train them, like they know how the system works, they know how the industry works, what are the best practices and all. So yes, so that's it. But again, I would say like you should try for both, because you always have the choice of ditching like what you don't want, right? So even if you have like good offers on the table, and you, let's say like tomorrow if something happens, you have something to fall back on. And the more interviews you give, like you'll actually that will actually help you in your career, to get good amount of experiences. And somewhere down the line, the off campus companies might also contact you again, that they have some opening, and they are really wanting to get you on board. So yes, I think you should try as much as you want.
Mm, yeah, I can agree with that. So, Dipen, would you like to share something about this?
Yes. So just to add to what Smith was mentioning, I think even in for my case, I used to apply for lots of companies. Like I knew that this all companies are coming to my campus. Say Morgan Stanley is coming tomorrow, but still then till also then I would apply for so many off campus regularly. I would make sure that, so there are lots of lists available of all the companies. So I was interested in any tech company, I can just Google whatever companies are there, tech companies are there in India, and I would get a list. I would save that list and start applying to every job portal of every company I was interested in. And I used to do this regularly. Every website will have a different job portal. Everyone has something on other. But what I observed is like the job portals which are very uh, nicely built for startups are very good. Something like Angel.co or something like Top Hire or Insta Hire. There are so many now, but those are better than uh, the old portal dashboards which we apply to, because the company itself, like something like Angel, the company employees of Angel itself help us to helps and follows up with the company and applies our resume and asks the recruiters to actually refer our resume, and if it matches. So I did get some offers while interviewing in the off campus. In one of the, I remember when I was I started applying for off campus. I got one offer from Docs app for the interview, which I also cracked, but that time it was very small. But one thing I observed in that, actually there was no CP round. They just were interested directly in the technical interviews. But it was eventually turned out that the startup was good enough. But at that time it was so small that I didn't even consider it as an option. So if you are thinking that if you are getting any startup which you think has nice potential, you yourself would think of investing in any of such startup, then go for it. Like, there is nothing stopping you, even though you are getting less paid. But if they are guaranteeing that by the time they go big, they will be able to offer you big, then there is nothing wrong in applying there. Other thing, what I see after joining my company in Microsoft is LinkedIn is an automated process. There are so many processes and so many internal recruitment tags and recruitment scripts which are running across LinkedIn for so many services. So whoever has this LinkedIn Enterprise package, no one is going and manually scrolling and checking your profile. All they are doing is searching for tags, and they have a dashboard where they see all types of things. So they just put what all skills they require and what all experience they require. So one thing I would suggest, to keep your LinkedIn profile very updated, and in your skills you add proper tags. So if it is JavaScript, add JavaScript as one word. Don't do Java space script, which it doesn't match the automated flow, even though it makes sense while reading. So even in your description, make sure you use proper hashtags. You can just Google, you will see so many uh, blogs telling about how LinkedIn recruitment actually works. But yeah, that's what something I got to know after joining my company. And yeah, so this is what I see. Other thing important was that the resume which we make sure it is when if you do like a scan of it, the text is recognizable, because people have this resume screening automation which actually pulls out the text by using normal OpenCV method. That's what Microsoft also does. So it is very crucial that you make sure that your resume is not very graphical, so the text comes out very easily.
Can I add on to this as well? I
Yeah,
have a very
sure.
strong opinion on this. So, what I have seen, like over the years, people from KJ specifically, or any Mumbai university, I don't know why people are scared of applying outside of campus. Either they don't apply off a campus, or they just apply to the very famous companies which are there. But there are so many companies, there are so many startups out there which pay well, and which actually have pool campus placements, which are either you get there via your TPOs, or you get there via some off campus applications like via LinkedIn or something like that. And this I have, from what I know, very few people apply off campus. I would like to see that has changed over the last 2 years. But from what that is one thing. So please keep an open mind about off campus. You get very good packages, very competitive packages off campus, and on campus also there are. We have been improving on campus, but the thing is that on campus has very limited options for you. Either there are like 2 3 very good companies, and if you don't make it, then there are the small few companies that then what you do is basically, because you are not applying outside, you go for those because you want a job, and then ultimately what you do is basically then make a switch later on. And the second thing is, this job hunting is a skill. You might not be able to do it very well starting off from college, but this is a skill that you have to develop over the years, because you are not going to work at a single company for like 15 20 years. That age has gone. People do, you look for better opportunities, your goals changes, so you have to make switch, not switch exactly, you want to have different goals. The company might not be offering you the technical challenge that you're looking for. Many things can change. And this skill, if you rely on just on campus, what will happen is, 2 3 years down the line, that will be a very steep learning curve when you start looking for a job. And if you start early on, I would say start right now also. Even if you're in third year, start for internships. That also helps you in that. But just start. And job hunting as such, you should not be relying on someone. If someone helps you and you get that job, that's a very good thing. But you need to make sure that you are independent in finding jobs, be it whatever kind of jobs that you're looking for. And as Dipen was saying, LinkedIn is very important. Almost all social media is very important. We don't know what next is the next job hiring platform going to be. Right now it is LinkedIn, so please maintain LinkedIn and be up to date. Maybe next Twitter is the one. There are also offers that people get via Twitter also. So if you look at very famous colleges out there in India, triple IITs and all that, if you see students from there are very active on all the social medias and they have very good following and network there, and they get very good offers. It's just because they have such a network. People just think that this is the guy. This guy is making it, and we want to get this guy on the company. You can create that image if you start, but you might not be able to create that level of influence. But if you have some influence, that will basically help you out, and that's a skill that you have to keep on building, and it's a lifelong process that you have to keep on improving in this. So start early, I would say, job hunting, and on campus is there for you. You are going to get interviews in that, but try off campus as much as you can.
Yeah, that's very insightful.
I'll go on this. I'll think I have something. So I
Yeah, sure.
think there is a sense of security that people have ki, on campus jobs I will have, and then it's going to be comparatively easier, and they are reluctant to go outside. It is just about breaking that barrier. As Smith said, it is going to be tough out there, but then how will one know about how tough it is if they don't try, right? So I think even for it, that was the same for my case. We being at KJSOMA don't expect ourselves to go to the likes of Google or Amazon for that matter, and then we don't apply itself. That thing should stop. Is what I think. Even in my case, let's say I applied off campus for BrowserStack. The part of the reason was Chaitya was already there. He had been through the process. I contacted him. I knew what process he went through, and I became familiar. And now I see BrowserStack as a very reachable target for everyone in KJSOMA, right? So we need someone like Chaitya who further goes ahead, takes this ahead, some maybe goes for off campus on Google, and then people from our uh, coming from the future batches can also approach that. So we just need one guy who can break that level, take it one step ahead to off campus, and then everyone will follow. So don't be afraid to be that guy, right?
Yeah, totally. So about this off-campus thing, since I guess Chirag and Chaitya, you both have applied in the browser stack off-campus. So what if I want to opt for an off-campus job? What should I be doing to stand out from the crowd and do those certification courses and other than what colleges offer are important for our resume if I want to opt for some off-campus job?
Chirag, would you like to go first on this?
Okay. So I'll answer the what stands out part later. First, the certification part. I am not sure how much importance does a person give to the certifications that you have done. It is very easy for someone to fake a certification, right? Because nowadays with so many MOOCs available, we rather than treating for me personally, rather than treating certificate online certifications from Coursera and all those things as a thing that I can display on my resume, I consider it as a place where I can gain skills and then put it to use in my projects, which then display that, right? A certificate from someone online doesn't justify that I know a particular skill or not. It's easy for me to, let's say, Google the questions in the final test and then answer them out, right? Build your projects and your internships in such a way they should showcase the skills that you possess and not the certification from a third party, right? Which is not monitored properly or not something which can be held as accountable. What stands out? There is uh, there are a lot of aspects. It's in on campus. The thing that you have is you will for sure sit for the first round. That is the first criteria, and that is something that you have to cover in case of off campus, right? And what helps? That's the normal procedure. There is nothing out of the box that you have to do. you need to have a good resume wherein you have some good internships which showcase your skill. You need to have certain projects under your belt which again show the skills that you have. Then you can have your open source contributions, or let's say profiles of various coding platforms or anything like that, which again showcases your skill. Nothing else, nothing something which not anyone has done or something that makes you stand apart. It's a general procedure everyone has to be follow that wisely. And I think every HR recruiter who finds that will go through your resume, you find it interesting, you will get a call to the next round. And then post the initial call, there is no difference between an on-campus interview and an off-campus interview. Chaitya?
Okay, that was very well stated and explained. Chaitya, would you like to comment on this?
So regarding projects, I would say most of the projects should be, this is my opinion, but yeah, whatever cutting edge technologies that you are learning, whatever interests don't just learn those and leave it at that. As Chirag said, that create something out of it, and that's the one thing that will. These projects have many values apart from just showing it off on your profile. These are the talking points that you get during an interview. Because over the interview, once they ask you a few questions, what are you going to talk about? If they say they'll ask you about some projects, and let's say if you have done created a XYZ app and you just made it out of following some tutorial, something like that, you won't have much to talk about. But if you made it out of your curiosity, and you might have faced certain challenges over there, and there's lots of learning out there that will help you throughout your career. So first thing is that build projects. Second is, I would say, certifications are not there's a stigma around it, and there are people that do certifications, and there are certain people that are against it. I would say if a certification which you are doing is easy for, if 60 people are doing that certification and all 60 get that certification, mostly there is no value to that certification. So if a certification has a very low barrier of people passing out of it, do that. That will definitely have some value to it. I guess these are the points that I have for this.
Thank you for clearing out our doubts about those certified courses. As Chaitya said before about the times have gone where people used to stay in a job for 15 to 20 years and stuff. But now the current trends are like people tend to switch jobs within some years and stuff. So is that true that after switching a job you get a salary hike, and that's the reason why people tend to switch a lot of jobs? And if they do, is there any time frame between how much I have to work for a company and then switch for the next job? Is there some time frame, ideal time frame, or maybe company has given some time frame? Is it like that? Would you like to comment on that? I'll ask Dipen about this.
Yeah, sure. Actually, what I think is it depends from person to person. What I personally do and what I would suggest is to keep thinking every day, am I learning today anything new? Did I learn anything new today? Did I learn anything new today? If your answer is yes, then yeah, you can stay here. Forget about the money. If you're learning, eventually you will end up getting the correct amount which you deserve. And regarding the job switches, yeah, money is one of the important factors when considering to do job switch, but it is not the only important factor. So if you are just switching job, which is similar to what you are doing here, but just you are going there for money, eventually you will drop that job because you anyways don't like what you are doing. So what I would suggest is have in your mind what you want to do eventually, what is a perfect job for you, and keep making switches till you get there. And once you get there, you will have some other job which is perfect for you. So this is how the cycle goes on. I think Smith here is the right guy to talk about on this question.
Yeah, Smith, please share your opinions on this question.
I totally echo with Dipen. It is the same thing. Okay, so when you spend some time in your company, you'll eventually feel okay. So I contacted Chaitya, I contacted Chirag. So his job is very cool, and the salary is very good. Why shouldn't I try there? Okay, so just don't do that. It's a choice of attitude. If like if you are even working at Google, there are people are leaving Google also. Okay, so even the best companies may not guarantee you the life that you want, right? So be very clear about what you want. And I guess the thing that you should focus here is, if you can build a skill, companies don't think about giving you money. Okay, if you are someone that is really hard to find in the market, they'll give you 50%, 100%, whatever hike you want. They don't care about it. Okay, just focus on being the best thing, like the best skill that you want, that you have. Be very good at what you do. And don't think I should do only I'll need to do these projects so that I get this much amount of hike and all. I think if you bring it in your attitude that you have to just perform your best, and eventually you'll get good returns. Just follow that, and it will happen to you. Like good, if you see, some of my seniors have left from Mumbai and they have shifted to Canada, and they are getting job offers just because their profile was so good and they were performing very well. So don't think about it. Just be good, and companies are going to pay.
Mm, I really liked the way you actually explained, and I really liked your answer, to be honest. And I quite agree with the fact I have already I've heard these things before from my elder brother. So yeah, I can relate to it. Uh, okay, so this is we'll move on to the next question, and this question is for everybody here, all the four panelists. Okay, how has the pandemic affected placements in general? Like, what do you feel? Your placements, or maybe the current placements, the new freshers. In general, you can talk about it. Like, how has it affected? Generally, genuinely want to know.
Should I? I'll go first. Okay. So I think on the basis of what I have seen, because I passed out in pandemic and then I joined my job in pandemic. If if not, because we are in IT industry, I think we are the least affected people among all the sectors which are present. If not, we are on the, if not for the same level as we were earlier, I think we have increased number of hiring being seen in IT sector, because more and more digital solutions are becoming significant, for which earlier we used to do the physical equivalent of, right? So I think somewhere it has been a blessing in disguise. Yes, it has become difficult. Doing common normal processes have changed, like the interviewing process has changed. Everything happens over a video call. My entire onboarding happened over remotely, and all those aspects have changed. But that is not something that is being done for the first time. People have been working remotely in IT for a long time. We have seen people working for their entire lifetime remotely, which was their choice, right? So I think we were among the least affected ones, and I think the other folks can add on based on their own experiences as well.
Yes, definitely. What Chirag, just to add what Chirag is saying on, one thing I saw is many of the companies which my friends went, it's like they got the offers, but their offer got delayed due to this pandemic. But in some of the companies, hiring got freezed and all. But it was all transient. Like after few weeks or few months, the hiring was again in full force. And yeah, definitely, because we are in IT industry, it actually helps us rather than not helping us. What I see from many of the juniors, which I follow many people on LinkedIn, is job hunting is hard, as what Chaitya told. But to just push everything which is hard to the pandemic situation, that is not fair, right? It was always already hard. It's not like it because of pandemic you are not getting it. It just you just have to put the effort. If it is just one company which is not affecting, the whole industry doesn't get affected. Like if it is just one company who has freezed some hiring, or if it is just one company who is not taking interviews anymore, or who is who has deferred your interview process or your offer, you can apply to the other ones. There are so many companies, and yeah, that's it.
Go ahead, Sunat. And
Yeah,
Smith.
I'll just add here. I would say like don't plan for a pandemic. You know, I would say just plan in general. You never know what the next pandemic is, and and you never know what is going to happen. And like like a lot of people might complain that due to pandemic they lost their jobs. They did like they don't didn't know what to do. But I would also emphasize that if you have got much more time. Like people have opened so many resources in pandemic. Like if you see, there were so many courses. You have good amount of time. You are at home, you can study stuff. So make best use of it, and just like just keep on practicing. And when things are normal, you're going to get good things. Okay. But here I would say there is a definitely a thing that due in pandemic, the worst hit were the startups, because they thrive on getting funding and all. So those were some risky bets, and I have seen some of my friends like losing their jobs because of that. And the tech giants were quite shielded from that fact. Okay. So but nevertheless, I would say just keep preparing and you will get a good job anyway.
Yeah, I'll just give my few words on this. I think in general, tech industry wasn't affected as such, but that's not a blanket statement as such, because there were tech companies that were towards the financial zone. So in the first 6 months, the financial market was not doing well. It was in panic or something like that. So those were affected quite a lot. And as Smith said, I'm so sorry, Smith. I have a friend named Sumit, and I just talk to him every day. So I've been doing this. But yeah, so basically the thing is, they were affected, and there were like there were people laid off and such. But the hiring, the overall intake of the market has not changed, is what I observe, because everyone is getting jobs. You might not get into the companies that you were hoping for before, like maybe Morgan Stanley was. I think still Morgan Stanley was hiring, and it has been hiring this year also. But like there are some banks that were majorly affected, is what I saw. There are different types of companies. Most SaaS weren't affected because all SaaS products improved. So yeah, the different sectors are affected as such. But at the end of the day, if you were going to get a job when there wasn't a pandemic, you will be getting a job right now as well. There is no any change in that.
Yeah, these were some amazing answers and quite motivating as well, because people, yeah, I totally agree that people other than the IT industry were hit really hard. People have lost their jobs, but IT industry was quite lenient because we have work from home facility. Uh, okay, so now I guess we'll be having one last question. Uh, Uh, okay, so which is a better, like product-based company or software-based company, and why do you think so?
Smith
Uh,
first. Smith first.
yeah,
Okay.
Smith can answer that.
Okay, great. So I have been to both. So in my experience, okay, I would again say the same thing. uh, there is no good or bad. It really depends on the project you are working on. Okay. It might happen that you are in a like in a not a non-product based company, and you get a very good project, wherein you can apply whatever you have learned so far. You can apply machine learning, you can apply like you can give your own input and build stuff out of it. So there is no such thing as a non-product or a product company. But yes, it is definitely that if you are in a product company, the chances of getting a good project are very good. Like you have good control over it. You can govern how you want to make it. You can put your own ideas. Your ideas are quite valued. So yes, so that aspect is always there. So I would always say that whenever you get such a dilemma, just ask yourself: is the project worth it, and does it excite you to work harder? And and if it does, and if whatever your inputs are actually converting and are actually materializing in the product itself, like whatever it may be. In non-product, it's basically something that you design for your own clients, so it doesn't matter. Just think that whatever inputs that you have, do they materialize it, and do you get a chance, and are you heard, and basically are you enjoying your work? If you are, then don't think about it, just go with it.
Okay, I'll go next on this because I want Dipen to put his thoughts after me. So mostly from what I have worked in product company, right, since the start. I don't know how consultancies work or how service-based companies work, and I think there is something that I'm missing out. Maybe I don't know. And there were definitely some learnings that are there which I might not ever get in a product-based company. So it's not go to X or go to Y. Maybe you can work in both eventually throughout your career, just to get the learnings out of it. But yes, you can definitely prioritize which to work for first. Like if you hope to build some product in the future of your own, I think consultancies will prepare you. From what I think, I don't know. Depend can correct me on this. I think they'll prepare you to build things faster within which also product companies do, but product companies will add on the value to you, to your skills, in terms of that you can think how to improve a product, and basically to think from the point of view of a customer towards a product and all that. I don't think this learnings even usually come in a consultancy, because there are requirements and you fix those requirements, and those requirements come from people, product managers or something from some other companies. And whereas in a product company you are doing this alongside them, and you influence the requirements also, and all that helps you build your own product in future when you are trying you, because this is a decision making process that if you haven't built your own product any day, you won't acquire the skills on your own. It's a continuous learning curve, and product companies help you in that. I think more about consultancy, mostly Dipen and Smith can again answer, I think, on that. Smith can also again add on to that.
Yeah, so actually to answer that, I feel when you talk about non-product based companies, basically service based companies, it actually depends on which company are you talking about. Because if you talk about general Infosys and Accenture and all those kind of companies, every company has some threshold, and inside the company which is service based, it will have domains, domains as such, saying that they will divide it maybe in the three domains, and the first domain will get good projects which will have good technologies and which will be more interactive with the customer, while there will be domain 3 which is not so great. But this is what I see even in my company and many other companies. But what is the changing difference is that if you are in a project in a service based company and that project is not so good, is what you feel, then you probably have to, you can excel it very fast. Like you can easily code half of the things they are saying in a day or in a night, and what they were expecting in a week. And in that case, you will eventually land up in the correct team which you deserve. And one thing, when people say that so there is no learning in service based company, I definitely don't agree, because whichever service you are giving to whichever company, it is eventually a product of someone. So even if I give example for myself, I work in the Microsoft consultancy area where my main customer was Renault Nissan cars. So it was that they had their product to have this connected car experience. They wanted their own OS on the car itself, and that's where me as a team with my team helped them. And eventually, I had my seniors eventually working for the Renault company itself in France, because he was with me working as a consultancy over him. So he was in service-based company with me, but eventually he landed up in Renault, which for the project he was working on, and now eventually he's in a product-based company. So the thing is, product-based company definitely are have more exposure. You can do more performance tuning and more optimization, as Chaitya was suggesting. But also one downside, the only downside I think about product-based company is that you have a limited amount of products. It will be just one product you will be working on, or 10 products you will be working on. But if it is service based, you can directly change your tech stack. You can change your whole role just by moving from one project to other project. You get a lot of breadth of technologies. Today you are working on something which is on front end. Tomorrow you are working on back end. day after tomorrow you are working on machine learning. And it depends, because projects get over and you get new projects every day, and you have to be up to date to the industry. So if the industry is leaning toward AI, eventually you will land up to a AI project, because that's what is getting intake by the company itself. And I think the basic idea to judge any service based company is to actually check what kind of customers they are working with. Just to give you a range, you can just check how many Fortune 500 or how many Fortune 600,000, how many top companies are the clients of this service based company, and you will eventually get an idea. Because if I say that I am a service based company working for a for something which is like Sony, or something like, even Hotstar has a service consultancy done with Microsoft. So even if I'm working with them, doesn't mean that I'm not learning enough. I'm working with the developers of Hotstar themselves. So yeah, it depends like where you land up inside a service-based company. Smith, you want to add something?
No, I think that definitely covers it. But guys, one like that, I also want to highlight the benefits of a service company or a consultancy. Is that, in a product-based company, you might end up giving 3 years for the same product. But in a service company, if you like, because they have some deadlines, they have new projects going on, you can get 3 good products in 3 years. Okay, so you're also shielded from the fact that if a product goes bust, you are still protected. You don't have anything to worry about. The consultancy will give a new project. Okay, so there are pros and cons for both. So you have to choose it, and wherever you go, just give your best.
I
Very well
think,
said. I
yeah.
guess people will have to just choose themselves for themselves, like whatever they want to do. Yeah, Chirag, go ahead.
Yep. So I think we saw pros coming from Chaitya for product and cons coming from Dipen and Smith to both of them, right? So I think the ideal answer for this is not to make up your mind that you want to end up in a product-based company or a service-based company, rather than evaluate it at a company by company level. So let's say there is an opening for some company, evaluate what kind of projects, independent of whether it is a product-based company or a service-based company, what kind of work they do you imagine yourself doing that kind of work on a daily basis for the next 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years of your life? And if that is something that you enjoy, then don't care about if it is a product based company or a service based company. Go ahead.
Perfect, just perfect. Uh, yeah, so we'll have just a request. Okay, so I'd like you all to give some tips for juniors. Okay, anything, and yeah, after this question is answered, we'll have a Q&A session where the viewers could directly ask you all questions. They'll be joining the meet and they can directly talk to you. So yeah, before that they join in, just can you do you have any tips for the juniors or what people who are gonna sit for the placements?
I would say we should go one by one on this. Everyone has something that we might have missed out. So I I think Chirag, you should go first. We should start from that.
I should go last. No, Smith should go first.
No,
The order of seniority.
but you are the most recent
Yeah,
candidate,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'll
That's
I'll
why.
conclude everything. I'll conclude everything. All the things that missing. No, which I faced
Okay.
later. Yep.
Yeah, Chirag claims to be an expert here, so he'll go last. Okay,
No,
Smith, you can go first.
I claim to be the most relatable person on this panel right
Let's see. Okay, yeah. But yeah, we need to go in an ascending or descending order. I think Smith, then you should start.
Sure.
Yeah.
So guys, one tip for coding interviews or interviews in general is, please do your homework very well. Like, don't go surprise in a Morgan Stanley or any media.net or any interview, a BrowserStack interview, and just believe in, like don't go empty-handed. Prepare very well. You have good websites like Geek for Geeks, Career Cup. Like, there are very good websites out there. You know, do the entire googling, make a proper a proper setup, like what all you need to study and what are the frequent questions they ask. And trust me, 70% to 90% of the time the questions are the same. Like, they will have some like 20-30 up and down, but yes, the general format and the general expectations are the same. Okay, So please prepare beforehand. Don't go empty-handed. I did that. I actually forgot to prepare for Morgan Stanley, and after that, when I came home and I read the Geek for Geeks interview, like the interview experience, it was the same. Like I really regretted that. So please don't do that. And second is be very, be very uh, conscious about your resume. If you don't know anything, it's okay to not know things. Okay, the intent is to portray the best of you. What are the best things about, like, somebody you want somebody to know about. So please don't clutter your resume with the things that you Google something. Okay, this is something that is trending in Google. So rather than just how Chaitya mentioned, I'll look up a tutorial and I'll add it to my resume. Don't do that. And like, make it a habit, I think, that you will only speak what you know. Like, I have seen people, like, they would boast, okay, I can solve this by segment trees. I'll use this algorithm. I know this model works very well for machine learning. But when somebody digs in deeper, like, how does a model work, like, what is the statistics behind it, people are not able to answer it. So don't go anywhere that you don't know. Keep the entire thing, like, just say, like, I think uh, I have also interviewed candidates. So the thing I would always want is to be honest, because tomorrow if he's on my project, I would really want him to be honest if he doesn't know something, and I am going to work with him, right? So be completely honest with what you know and give it your best. And again, keep practicing and don't ignore the basic stuff. Like, as I'm mentioning again and again, programming languages, databases, operating systems, these are the things that if you don't learn right now, you are going to learn it eventually. And that is like after 2 to 3 years, I have seen people, they don't know how Linux works, they don't know how the Java model works, and they end up doing the same thing after their experience. So don't do that. And trust me, the interviewers are very polite and they very much want you on your team. Just give them the correct vibe that, if I'm on your team, we can make a good solution. If you just crack that, I think you can crack any company. So just keep that. And I guess also, what I would say is, like, others can also agree that it is a patience game. Okay, so if you, like, it happens a lot of times that you will get rejections. It happens that you get to the finals. I have been to the finals of 4 companies 4 times, and I know how it is. But the thing is that you never lose hope and always keep learning from experiences. Okay, just keep a note of, write it somewhere. Just keep learning what you want, and you'll eventually get there. Just be patient and just keep giving your best. So yes, those are my 2 cents for the new guys.
Okay, let me go next, taking the seniority into the picture. What I would say is, uh, what I saw at my time, whenever I had my friends going through, that they used to crack the first round, and after they used to crack the programming round, they were like, now what? They wouldn't prepare anything beyond that. Before the interview, all they used to just invest all their time uh, learning about CP and getting things and how to code eventually in for the first round, but never thought anything else. What happens after the first round? No one had any idea. There were times that I am sitting in the interview and I was very clear that this is the technical round, next round is the behavioral round, and I was well prepared. But my colleagues and all my other guys were were blank. They didn't even know which interview is next scheduled because they didn't search well or something. So what I would say, what I followed personally was till third year, I used to do CP continuously. I used to take part in many contests here and there. But once I made my mind that I have to sit for interviews, I stopped doing CP because I knew that CP is good for me. And this much, whatever I have learned is enough for cracking the interviews. So I started working on next interviews, like technical interviews, operating system, networking questions. And eventually, by the time the interview would come, I was very prepared, very well prepared. So from person to person, if you think your operating system is not good enough, don't keep telling yourself that operating system is not good enough. Do something about it. Stop doing CP. There is so actually for CP, if you technically see, there are like 50, 60 of them, and if you know those, you can figure out the rest of them, and that's it. You don't have to dig so much at for just for clearing the interview. You can just go to Gig for Gigs, must do coding question. You can go to Career Cup. Every site has one page which will give you the most popular interview questions which are there, and they are popular for a reason, because eventually the other questions will also land up into a similar condition. So don't just solve them just for the sake of it, but also understand them. Some very simple like merge sort or quick sort, people know the theory, but when they ask when they ask the same question in the interview, they are not able to explain it. They will ask the same question in the CP round, you are able to code it, but when they ask the same thing in technical round, you are not able to. So this is what something you need to work from person to person basis. Another important thing I would like to add is, for me personally, even now, doing mock interviews helps me a lot. Whether it be on Pramp or websites like Pramp and all, or maybe my personal friends or my family even, because HR round and behavioral questions is not something which is specific to the tech industry. You can include anyone. You can also ask your girlfriend and ask her to uh, take your behavioral round. Like everyone, there is the mock interview thing is too good to prepare yourself. Like it is very underrated, is what I feel. Yeah, rest of things I think Smith covered very nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. So I think first thing I would like to reiterate, I mentioned it in the start of the session. If your interview is not in the next 2 weeks, go through the coding, cracking the coding interview book. We might have covered most of those points. Self-plug, yeah, because we basically all of us have went through that at some point of life. But basically, that book has everything, and it is to the point. It's put very nicely, and that book keeps on improving. It has almost everything. Once you're done with that book, I think regarding the behavioral and the attitude questions, some part of that is also there in the book, but in terms of technical interviews, that covers most of it. Now, if you're aiming for the Fangs and the Amazons and the Googles of the world to crack, I think that's where you have to push your boundaries in both of it a bit, where you can't just stop at the 60 questions. You can't just stop at basic aptitude questions. You have to push that boundary. But I think if you are at that level, basically uh, then you will already know that you are best at something, and you try to just keep on being best at something. Because I know people who have cracked Google and all that, and cracking Google in India, which what I feel is not that difficult if you are going to work for Google in Indian office. But if you want to go to the London office, Canada or US, I don't think it's possible directly to go there. But if you want to crack those, then CP aspect becomes a very interesting part, because you directly get picked up if you are very good at CP. And by very good, I mean you are like 7-star on, like 6-star or 7-star on CodeChef, and CodeChef is just not the platform where they look at anyways. You need to be good at on Codeforces. I think, yeah, Codeforces, you need to be a red on Codeforces minimum requirement, I think. But that is if you want, yeah, aiming that high. If you are in among the general public and you're looking for a good job in India, I would say you don't have to push the boundaries so high. Minimum tech requirements are good enough, and I think there are resources out there which dictate that this is, if you do this, you will be good to go. Now, this is the technical part. There is also a attitude part of it, and where to get help from. So first thing is, don't keep on doing all these on your own. Talk to your seniors. Reach out to people. Reach out to people in the companies that you are interviewing in. A good way to do that is basically, if you are interviewing for XYZ, look on LinkedIn, go write XYZ plus your college name, KJSC maybe. So XYZ KJSC, you will find some person who is from KJSOMA and is working there, and he'll be more, basically you'll have a better chance in talking to him than to any random person, because you can say that, yeah, I'm a junior, and maybe you can even find some mutual friends out there because you were in the same college. So that helps out. Do reach out to people, talk to people, and as Dipen was suggesting that mock interviews, yes, they are very important. If you think you're nervous, kind of you get nervous, even though you are very good at your technical skills, there is a chance that you get nervous in interview and you bomb those interviews. And most of the times, if you have done everything right in an interview, there is a very high, like there is never 100% that you'll crack any interview, even if you're very good at it. And you are just trying to minimize your chances to get rejected. So to do that, you have to be on par with everything and very thought through of each and every round. Usually when you talk to people, you get to know what each and every round is. You know how what kind of questions you can expect. You can come to know what maybe is something where you might face difficulty before the interview. And if you know all this, there's a very high chance of you not screwing it up. And there is one more thing. It's a skill which will develop by giving interviews. But generally, after the technical interviews, you can, if you are confident enough, you can just drive the interviews the way you want to. The interviewer will ask you questions that he wants to get out of you, but you can basically drive it in such a way that he only focuses on your strengths, and it goes that way. It's a skill, and you can develop it. I'm telling you, this is just the start. You have to be, if you are going to work for let's next 10 years, there are these two skills: job hunting and interviewing. Which interview is broken, you'll read about it, but we can't do anything about it right now. So this is how you have to do it, and you have to keep on improving on those two skills. And there is no, I don't think you can ever be the best at it. Just keep improving. Yeah, I think I went too philosophical, but yeah, you'll get all the technical knowledge from the cracking the coding interview. So to read that, I'm not covering any of that. Yeah, Chirag can go next.
Okay, so I guess everything has been covered, and I have nothing much to add. But then I'll just retouch on the few points that these guys went through. One, we live in a very open world right now. The internet gives us access to everything. Be it interview at a XYZ company for a ABC role, you will get an exact person who has written his interview experience for that, either on GFG or on Glassdoor, right? If it is a company which is coming to you on campus, our TPO goes to the length of creating an Excel sheet of the 3 people who got selected into that and their experience, right? You have so many resources. So there is no way you can say that I was not prepared for this interview, or I didn't have resources, or I didn't have an idea about how do I approach this interview. So you have access to all the resources at your hand. It's just about you taking the effort in order to make use of those resources. The second aspect of being in such an open environment at this point of time is that you can reach out to anyone on LinkedIn. You can reach out to XYZ company's CTO, CEO directly, message him on LinkedIn saying, I desire to work at your company or for this particular role. This is my resume. Yes, he may not respond immediately, but not the even the software developers or the people that you ask for referral may not reply to you, but they do check it. At least I do. I keep on getting people messages on LinkedIn. When I was interviewing, I just kept on sending cold messages to people on random people on LinkedIn with the hope that someone will reply, and people do reply, saying at least some because people are helpful. The tech community, as we say, is very helpful and always helps out people in need, and they will always reply saying, we don't have an opening for your role, but whenever we have, I will. And he'll remember that this one guy had someday done me, because even that guy is going to be benefited from referring you if you are genuinely a good candidate, right? Because they have referral bonuses at their end. So even he wants to help you. It's just about you reaching out to them and then presenting yourself in such a way that they feel that they can refer you. So that is one aspect of being reaching out to people and making use of this era of internet and the era of connectivity that we have. The second aspect is again something that Smit told. It is a game of patience and perseverance. I have been through this in my previous year, and I've been. It was a very stressful situation for me. So to put it in context, our interviews start in college, I guess, in June or May end and June, and Microsoft and Barclays is, I guess, the first of the companies that comes to our college always, right? So I, for some reason, didn't crack Microsoft, and post that till February of next year. So it's like, let's say 7 to 8 months, I didn't have a job. In this duration, my entire batch, everyone I knew of got a job for themselves, and I didn't have a job. This adding to my history that I used to be a decent coder. I used to go to n number of hackathons. I used to do all programming CP contests and everything, right? Still, So it takes a toll on you, but then you have to have a belief on yourself that there is something good at the end of the road, and just keep working in that direction. And especially for people who are aiming for off the campus interviews, the smaller companies, they won't come to you 6 months in advance or an year in advance, because that is not something they don't plan for 1 year in future, right? They would hire you with a expectancy of you joining them immediately, let's say 2 months back or 3 months later. That is why those roles are going to be offered to you at a very later stage. So if you are aiming big, and if you are aiming to do something out of the comfort zone, like going for an off campus interview or something, be ready to go the distance and don't give up so easily. And don't compare about how your friends are doing at this point of time, that they have got 2 job offers or 3 job offers and I haven't got one at this point of time, because that is only going to drive you down. Take their help whenever you need about what you did different from them and what you can learn from them, but then stick to your own process. Yep, I guess that's it.
So this all those points were quite informative. Like, of course, we need help from the seniors, from our friends, everyone, and we have do not, like, we cannot lose hope and stuff. We just have to stay focused on whatever we want. So yeah, that was quite motivating as well. Uh, so I guess we'll be starting with the Q&A session after people join in, after our viewers join in. चैट में डाउट्स पूछना है क्या?